Well, hello, Thoracic Forum. So, the task was to do a session on sustainability. And I thought there's loads of soft things we could talk about. But actually, I thought, wouldn't it be incredible to talk about something you could change in your practice right now, today? So, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by an amazing person. His name is Cliff Parker. You won't have heard of him before, but you are going to remember his name because he has an incredible company called Restore Robotics that can change your robotic practice today. So, Cliff, amazing. Thank you so much for joining me from America. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with the Thoracic Forum, which is all the UK's thoracic surgeons, huge number who do robotics. And we'd love to hear about your incredible company and what we can do today to help with sustainability in our practice.
Thank you. And I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last few weeks. And yes, this is truly exciting. Restore Robotics has embarked on a journey to make robotics more sustainable and less expensive. So we have been able to reverse engineer the Da Vinci robotic instruments and be able to remanufacture those instruments right now in the US and eventually in Europe and other countries. So the UK will be shortly, but in the meantime, we can start the sustainability project, which is collecting those expired instruments and making those available for hospitals to purchase at a later time once we have the regulatory clearance in the UK.
Amazing. So, you've got a few slides to show us. So, tell us a little bit about your company and how it works.
Certainly. Let me bring that up right now. So, Restore Robotics started in 2018, but we really took off in 2025 when we first received FDA clearance to remanufacture the robotic instruments, the XI robotic instruments, which are, of course, able to be used on the X, the XI, and the new DV5 robot. So what we do is we collect the expired instruments in these trays, and the trays stack up in a bin, and then we receive those expired instruments, and they go through a process, which I'll talk about. So basically, that program, there's really four areas that we talk about. The purpose: to reduce hospital costs and the environmental impacts of robotic surgery. And right now it's through an FDA-sanctioned instrument remanufacturing program. And in the US, we're saving the hospitals about 20% versus a new Da Vinci robotic instruments. We have permission from Intuitive to do that. We have a legal settlement that permits Restore to remanufacture the instruments without any interference, without Intuitive canceling any warranties or service contracts. And we have FDA clearance, which basically we had to prove that we were able to make the instrument substantially equivalent to a new in-the-box instrument. And the way it works is the hospital collects the expired instruments, like I showed you. They're sent to us. We would collect them into a central location in the UK, and then they'd be shipped to us. Eventually, we'll have a remanufacturing facility there, but in the beginning, it'll be shipped to us, and then we'll do the remanufacturing there. So we log in the instruments, we know where they're from, so we can keep track of what facilities are sending us how many instruments. They go through a full visual inspection to see if they're eligible to be remanufactured. Obviously, if they're broken or there's any substantial issues, they will not be remanufactured. If they pass that visual inspection, then they go through a functional inspection where we're doing electrical safety testing, we're checking the sharpness of the scissors, we're checking for any fraying of the cables and any other defects. And then once they complete all the testing and they pass the quality assurance, then they go into our inventory and the hospitals can purchase those instruments from us. We do a laser etching on the case housing. Here it says remanufactured by Restore Robotics. So it is now a Restore Robotics instrument. We have our own IFU that the hospitals follow, which is basically identical to the intuitive instructions for use. This is that collection process. They go in the bins, then the bins are shipped to us. And then once we detect that bin has been shipped, we automatically ship a new bin to the facility. So they constantly have enough bins to be able to ship the instruments. And this is on the Intuitive website. It says Intuitive will not void its service contract with, cease doing business with, or consider a breach of contract. So as long as we have in the US, as long as we have a 510K. And then we also provide a no questions asked warranty. So if anything happens to the instruments, we provide a credit for the number of lives left plus one, no matter the reason. If you dropped it, stepped on it, don't like the color, for any reason, we provide a credit. And then we can provide hospitals substantial savings. This is an example of a hospital system performing 1,500 surgeries a year and growing 10% a year. Basically, we would save them $622,000 just on the monopolar curved shears. And that is typically about 30% of the usage. So all their instruments, that would be about a $1.8 million savings. So saving them money, plus the sustainability, those instruments are not having to be dumped into a landfill. They're able to be used multiple times down the road. And then that is basically it.
Phenomenal. So, just little tiny things. So a little red dot turns up on the instrument when they run out of lives. That'll all disappear and that won't turn up for another 10 uses. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We reset that red dot back to white. Yeah. We reset the number of lives. And so that usage counter is back to the original, and the robot reads it just fine. It doesn't know the difference.
Yep, and we were talking a little bit before, and I asked you cheekily if it was just allowed to keep going until it failed, how many uses do you think an instrument would be usable for, hypothetically?
That's a good question, and it's tough to answer that accurately because it depends on the type of procedure. So if you're using a monopolar scissors in a procedure where you may use it, 2 or 3 times, or if you're doing a prostatectomy, great difference in the way they're used. But as you know, most laparoscopic instruments are used more than 10 times. And this is no different. It's a mechanical device. They're very well made. And if you take them apart, you'll see it's basically gears, pulleys, bearings, wires. Yeah. There's no real electronic except the usage counter that stores the model number, the serial number, and how many lives are on the instrument. So they're very robust instruments, and they can be used many times. Now in the U.S., currently we have clearance for an additional 10 uses, but we are looking at extending that as well through other types of programs, which we'll talk about later and see how this works with obtaining CE clearance and other clearances around.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to get across right now today is what could people do right now today to improve their sustainability footprint? I think you said literally today we could start sending you our instruments so that they could be remanufactured instead of being thrown in landfill. Is that correct? For people in the UK?
That's correct.
Yep. And how would we go about it?
Start collecting today. Yeah. We start collecting right away, and then those instruments, even though we can't sell them in the UK yet, we'll start banking credits for those facilities that if and when they want to purchase, they can, assuming we have all the regulatory clearances in place. But in the meantime, those instruments are not being thrown in the incinerator. Other facilities are able to utilize them in the time being.
And you're going to provide the trays, and you're paying the postage. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yep. So totally free.
No cost. Yep. No cost for the bins. No cost for the shipping. either way, we take care of all that.
Yep. And then everyone's probably shouting, "What's the time frame? When can we buy our first instrument from Restore Robotics in the UK?" How long is that piece of string?
Well, unfortunately, legally not allowed to um, predict that. That would be pre-market advertising.
Okay.
So we can't do that. So we'll have to just let you know when it happens.
So, but maybe we could say that if you're returning the instruments to you for free, then you'll be first in the queue for making a
Absolutely.
substantial saving. So, yeah, well, I think this is absolutely phenomenal. I think surgery is the worst, least eco-friendly, least sustainable thing in like the whole of our society. Never mind just in hospitals. And this is one thing that can be done immediately to try and improve our sustainability. And hopefully, let's say in 5 years' time, we'll be able to remanufacture all our instruments on our robotic platforms with yourselves for substantial savings and substantial landfill. And I'm sure you'd agree with that statement.
Yes.
And maybe let's talk about the future of Restore Robotics. Where do you see Restore Robotics in, say, 5 years' time? Would you be doing other instruments with other platforms? Where are you going to be in 5 years' time?
Sure. So obviously, we're watching the robotics landscape, which is exploding, as you know.
Mm.
I was at SRS in France back in the summer, and it was amazing how many robots are coming on the market. And quite a few of those manufacturers approached us about making their instruments remanufacturable. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised they wanted to, get our input on what could they do so they could help their customers reduce costs, reduce waste, and be more sustainable. So other robotic companies are interested in doing this. So it has to make sense financially because, as you know, the regulatory path is not a inexpensive or fast path. So it has to make sense financially to do that. But as those other robotic systems and the number of instruments available um, are makes it worthwhile, then we will definitely be taking a look at those. But the intention is to have majority of the intuitive instruments as soon as possible. Again, I can't um, you know, tell you when that will be, but hopefully very soon.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for jumping on at very short notice. I know you're an extremely busy person, and you supply 600 hospitals in the US at the moment, don't you? So you're a busy, busy man, and I hope we're going to make you very busy in the United Kingdom very, very soon. Thank you so much, Cliff, for joining us at the Thoracic Forum.